nation change. Now, the best way to control the political forces, obviously, is through elections. And it's interesting to see the stats we have on Christian voter turnout over recent elections. If I take Christian voting stats and look, for example, between 1992 and 1996, we had a 17% decrease in Christian voter turnout in that period of time. Between 1996 and 2000, it was an additional 23%, which makes a 40% decrease in Christian voter turnout in only 4 elections. That's not good. And by the way, you understand the consequences of that. I mean, Congress never reflects the values of America. They only reflect the values of those who voted in the last election. Real simple. So if people with biblical values don't go vote, you're not going to get policy or congressmen that reflect those values. So we've got a 40% drop. And by the way, it's not like we're a small group in America. In polling, there are 3 groups of Christians. You have the Christian voter, you have the born-again voter, and you have the evangelical voter. The biggest pool, the smaller pool, and the smallest pool is evangelical voters. Now, evangelical voters, currently, there are 60 million in America, and you may not consider yourself an evangelical, but I'm going to suggest to you that everybody in this room probably is an evangelical, because in polling, the way you become an evangelical in polling is you say you've had a life-changing experience with Jesus Christ, you believe the Bible to be the basis of life, and you go to church, you read the Bible, and you pray at least once a week. If you answer yes to that in polling, they're going to put you down as an evangelical. So an evangelical are those who call themselves evangelicals or those who are serious about their faith. Now, having said that, 60 million evangelicals is not a small group, but in that 2000 election, only 15 million voted in that election. That's only 1 out of 4 Bible-believing folks who believe the Bible is the basis of life, that it's the guidebook for what we do. 1 out of 4. You imagine how different the political landscape would be if the other 45 million had voted and voted their values. You see, the problem we have on top of that is that out of the 60 million, 24 million are not even registered to vote. We have 40%. Jesus says, go be salt, go be light. Not me, man. I'm not going to do that. 40% that can't even have an impact on the culture because they refuse to even get involved in that arena. So that's why in 2002, which is the next election after this, you saw you heard it on all the airwaves, radio, TV, mail, every Christian leader was saying, Christians, go register, go vote, and vote your values. Before that 2002 election, I was on 1,100 radio stations before that saying, Christians, go register, go vote. Go vote your values. Real simple stuff. Well, with all the effort that came from all these great national leaders, what was the impact? We actually saw an increase in Christian voter turnout in 2002, a massive upturn of 2%. Oh, man, that's not much. Well, it's more than you think. We had been losing 10% a year for 4 elections, so we've stopped the bleeding, we regained 2%. It's really more like a 12% trend change, which is not bad. Now, did it have any impact? Absolutely. How do we know? We know because of exit polling. Exit polling is real simple. Exit polling, after you vote, hundreds of thousands of Americans will be asked after they vote, who'd you vote for? Why'd you vote for them? What were the issues that drove you to vote for them? And so it usually takes some weeks to put together exit polls. You get little thumbnail snapshots during the election, and at the close of the night, they do real small exit polls, but the big stuff is put together weeks later. And one of the best ways to know if, quote, values voters voted is looking at the abortion issue and what they did with that. That's not the only biblical value issue out there. There's a ton of biblical value issues. There's a lot of stuff that we look at, but the life issue is the one that they've been tracking the longest in exit polling. So if you want to compare across years, that's the one to use. Roe v. Wade in '73. They're now doing marriage as an issue, but that wasn't in there 10 years ago. I mean, there's all these issues they're adding, but the one that's been there the longest is life issue. So when you look at voting on the life issue, in that 2002 election, 41% of all people who voted said, I voted the way I did because of the abortion issue. Now, within that, you had 23% who said, I voted a straight pro-life ticket, 16% who said, I voted a straight pro-abortion ticket. But look at the result. That's a 7-point advantage if you happen to be a pro-life candidate. Now, it had been a long time in America since you could run for federal office and be outspokenly a pro-life candidate. You could in the South. You could in Texas and Louisiana. And, you could across some of the Midwest, Tennessee and Carolina. But try doing that in New York, or try doing that in Nevada, or Washington State, or Pennsylvania, or Ohio, or other. Couldn't do it. It was hard to be out. You say, now, don't talk about this, but once you get in there, you can vote pro-life. But if you make an issue out of it, you're going to lose the election. But suddenly, running as a pro-life candidate, you had a 7-point advantage just from that upturn in Christian voter turnout. This is the result. This is the freshman class of 2002. There are 54 freshmen in that class that we sent to the House of Representatives in 2002, and out of the 54, 36 are pro-life. Now, that's good. That's a 2/3 pro-life class. and anything over 50.1 is making progress, and we got 2/3 in one class. That's good. And this is the Senate that year. We sent 10 freshman U.S. senators to the Senate, and out of those 10 freshman senators, 8 of the 10 were pro-life, pro-faith, pro-family, and that's really good because we needed a lot of help in the Senate. So we got an 80% class in one shot. Well, 2004 rolls around, and in the 2004 election, there was a massive upturn. We actually saw a 93% increase in Christian voter turnout in 2004. It is also, and by the way, you remember that we had been at 15 million. It jumped to 28.9 million that year. Now, that is still less than half voting, but that's higher than it's been. I mean, that's a way up. That's almost double. So with that, we saw changes also on the exit poll. Instead of 41% saying I voted the way I did because of the abortion issue, it was 42%. Instead of 23% saying I voted straight pro-life, it was 25%. Instead of 16% saying I voted straight pro-abortion, it was down to 13%. Now look, a 12-point advantage for a pro-life candidate. Hey, this is pretty interesting. The more Christians show up, the easier it is to elect people with those values to office. So the correlation is real clear. The result of that is this is the freshman class that was sent to the House of Representatives in 2004. There were 40 freshmen, and 2/3 of them are pro-life, same pro-life amount. You get into the Senate that year. In the Senate that year, we had 9 freshman senators sent to the Senate, and 7 of the 9 were pro-life, pro-faith, pro-family. That's a 77% Senate class. That's really good stuff. So you...
It was judges, not